All right, hey everyone, Spectre here. This is going to be a couple of things. This is going to be a look back at 2023. It's going to be a quick overview of my year in review, Steam year in review, and also looking a little bit ahead to 2024 as well too. So, thanks so much for tuning in here. Definitely go ahead. The only thing I'll ask you to do is, if you can, go ahead and subscribe. Don't get any money out of that or anything, but I like to see the number go up. So definitely go ahead and subscribe if you can. If you want to leave a comment and all the other stuff, go right ahead. But we're just looking for the subs at the moment. Just shows us that you care. So we'll get started here right away, though. So 2023, looking back on now that the dust has settled, now that we're a couple of days into 2024, this was a banger year. I mean, there was just a ton of stuff that came out that was just objectively pretty awesome. Some garbage too, some disappointments too, but there was a lot of really amazing stuff. So I wanted to go through and kind of highlight some stuff here that I really enjoyed myself, and talk about a major disappointment, one in particular that really kind of hurt in a way, because I'm a long-term fan of the series, or the I should say of the developer behind it. So yeah, so we're gonna get started here, and I'm not gonna have this too visually intensive or anything. I usually listen to a lot of videos just kind of in the background, so you're not really gonna miss a whole lot if you just have this in the background and you're just listening to audio as well. So I will have up my basically just my Steam profile here, a couple other little things. And I kind of like this. I mean, maybe you guys will like this or not. I think it just kind of shows, like, okay, this is what I've actually completed. I always have that nagging suspicion in the back of my head, like, okay, did the people that are reviewing games and playing games, are they actually playing them? Like, what's their definition of actually playing? Are you actually completing the game? How much time are you actually putting into it? So I think it's just nice to have sort of, I mean, as much proof as Steam stats can really be here, showing what I've actually done in some of these games. So we'll start off with, like I said, some of my favorites for the year, some of the highlights for the year. And starting off right at the beginning of the year, I have to find it here first. Let's see. Let's go to completed games, and we will go to the Dead Space remake here. So Dead Space remake. I'm not going to make this too long, kind of going through some of my thoughts on it, but this was a pretty nice start to the year. I really enjoy this. And to get this out of the way right away, remakes, as long as they are I think substantially changed from the original in some way, adding new content, major graphical overhauls, changing gameplay to some degree, I think that counts as sort of an original product to some degree. If it's just a straight port, or if it's just a re-release of something, I don't really think that should count as like a 2023 game or a modern game, really. But this was a remake. There was a substantial amount of effort put into it, new content, new gameplay, new side features to it as well. So I think this one's kind of right on the borderline, but I think this should count as its own separate entity in a way. But back to the game itself. Really, I'm looking at some of my notes for it here. I mean, I really enjoyed it quite a bit. Visually, it works really well. Sound design on it was a little hit or miss. I think it was overall pretty well done, but there were some enemy sound changes, some cues that were really. One in particular, there's the I can't remember the name, but the explodey enemy in the game that made a really distinct, like, almost animalistic, like, sound when it would come out and be in the area with you. That was kind of missing this game. It was really subdued. So some minor gripes here and there, a little bit of nitpicking with this game. I think it turned out great. I mean, I'm a big fan of the original Dead Space series, in particular number 2, Dead Space 2 is pretty amazing. Hopefully they will actually get to like a Dead Space 2 remake here. I'd like to see what they could actually do with that. But really, I think my biggest fear of this game going into it was that it was going to be sort of retooled and transformed into something that I didn't like. And thankfully that didn't happen. There was a lot of there's a lot of controversy with the game before it even released, just regarding certain changes. more, I guess you could say, politically oriented changes, and there is that in the game. There definitely is. I mean, there's the addition of, you probably see them now, the addition of the all gender bathrooms. There's definitely been some changes to certain characters, or certain kind of race swapping of some characters. So there definitely was some modifications to the game, which I think were obviously unnecessary. They're not needed at all, really. But that was, if you can put that aside, I mean, it's kind of, you blink and you miss that stuff. I mean, the core game itself is still there. It's still Dead Space. It's still fantastic. And I really would like to see them try a number two, Dead Space 2, and see what they can do with that, because I think that's a better game than one, a much better game in a lot of ways. So hopefully we will see that maybe in another year or two. That'd be really nice to actually get to experience that. As you can see, I did complete everything on it. That playtime is, we'll put an asterisk next to that, because it's probably not nearly that long. Sometimes, Steam doesn't really track if you idle in a game. I mean, it's so that might be some times where I just left the game on in the pause menu or something like that. So that could be what that is. But did finish the game off, and had a really good time with it. I mean, a couple different playthroughs I did of it, so really had a good experience with it. I think I got the digital deluxe edition. That was really not worth it for the DLC costumes. I think I would recommend against that. But I mean, if you see this game on sale, if you played the first one, or you're kind of interested in it for the first time for a good action horror experience, this was pretty well done. And yeah, the political stuff aside, it was a pretty well done game. My gripes with it are more just of the nitpicky nature. It's a pretty solid experience. So that's kind of what started the year. This came out back in January of 23, I believe. So that was the kind of what's got us into 23. And then what I was really looking forward to, I mean, we had other games come out after this. There was Hogwarts. There was Atomic Heart. Atomic Heart came out after this as well. And then the next thing that really everyone was looking forward to, of course, was another remake. This time the Resident Evil 4 remake. So fittingly, it's kind of fitting that we got a Dead Space remake and a Resident Evil 4 remake in the same year, because of course Resident Evil 4 inspired Dead Space, one of the main inspirations for it. So it's kind of, it's poetic in a way that they would both have a remake the exact same year. So going over to Resident Evil 4, let's see, I almost clicked on the old one. So Resident Evil 4 remake. So okay, once again, take that playtime with a grain of salt. I just leave games on unless I'm gonna be done with gaming for the day. I'll usually just leave the game on. So that might be a little bit inflated of a playtime to it, but did obviously do everything there is to do in the game. Got all the achievements and all that fun stuff. And my thoughts on this game. So took more notes on this one. I believe this is, the analogy I use is, this is like a great cover song. This, the original Resident Evil 4, obviously, widely regarded as a masterpiece. I think it's a masterpiece as well too. It's an incredible action, with some horror elements game. It's basically like playing an action movie. That's how the tone of it is. That's what it feels like, and it's just a fantastic experience. I think I've played through it probably like 10 times now at least. I did a playthrough of it in 23 as well too, in preparation for playing the remake as well too. So just an incredible game, really, just on all levels. It just really hits gameplay, story, sound design, and characters, memorable level design. It just it hits every checkbox. It was just a masterpiece of an experience. And Resident Evil 4 remake, I mean, and very much in many ways is also, I would be hesitate to call it a masterpiece, but it definitely was. This is definitely a stellar remake. This was really well done. I'm pretty happy with what we got, but I mean, there are some gripes I have with it too. I think something was lost when we moved away from the kind of the tank controls of Resident Evil 4, the original Resident Evil 4. There was something about that. I mean, it just really had this kind of it's hard to describe it. Really, it had this kind of this feel to it, this game feel to it that was really satisfying and fresh. Leon moved very smoothly in that game, and this one, it just feels like, I don't know. It just feels, it just has a different game feel to it from the original, which is to be expected. I mean, it's the whole point of this. It's supposed to be a modern, updated version of the game. It's difficult to describe. I mean, really, the only way I can describe it to you is if is you kind of have to play the original back to back with this one to really see the kind of the difference between the two. And I'll say, in terms of the story, I mean, it's the same basic overall story, but in terms of the character presentation, the voice acting in particular, we'll get to the character presentation here really, I don't know. It just they went for a very different tone. They tried to make it a little bit more serious. A lot of the silliness of the original is gone, unfortunately, and those are things I really loved, and I think are kind of endearing about the original. The goofiness of it. I mean, it is like you're watching a 80s or early 90s action movie. It's probably similar in tone to like watching like Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger, something like that, or maybe like well, Predator is pretty silly, so maybe like a Predator almost to some degree, similar in tone to that, where it's silly, it's over the top, and you can't help but love it. There's goofy one-liners. There's like Bond villains essentially in the game. These goofy over the top villains. That was what was really fun and charming about the original. Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't. The sacrifice for that is you lose the serious story, but I mean, it was entertaining. And that's first and foremost. I think that's what games should be, is entertaining, right? I mean, otherwise, what's the point really of any of it? So they pivoted in a much more serious direction with this, almost like Christopher Nolan style with Batman, kind of in a more serious direction. And I mean, I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm not saying. I mean, the game obviously, it looks really good. The voice actors, with maybe the exception of definitely the exception, I'll say, of Ada, and in the DLC Wesker, the voice actors, all aside from that, are pretty competent. I think though, just a lot of it's just maybe it's more of a scripting issue. Maybe it's just the lack of the silliness. And I mean, there is some silliness in it still, of course, but I miss that 80s action movie feeling. It's more like like if the original Resident Evil 4 was a like Commando, this is more like almost like John Wick, where it's still kind of it's goofy and over the top and actiony and flashy, and it's fun to watch. I like both movies too, but I mean, it's just they have different feelings to the two. I could rewatch Commando like a million times. It's still going to be funny to me. It's still going to have some pretty awesome action beats to it as well too. Something like a John Wick is, I mean, it's entertaining to watch, but I need a little bit more than just just the action part of it. I kind of like I kind of like having a little bit of a lighthearted kind of tone to it to some degree. So that's, I mean, this is by no means this is a bad game. This is one of my top games of the year. I'm not saying this is a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that if you told me right now, like like replay one of them, I probably would go back to the original. I think they can both they both provide something different. I personally prefer the original. It's just in terms of the I like the snappy gameplay. I like the tank controls actually in it. I think it just kind of worked better. Some things were better in this game though. I like the knife in this game a lot better. Some of the boss fights are handled a little bit better as well too. Like Krauser in particular, where you're especially the first time you fight him, you're fighting with a knife and everything. That was actually really well done, I think. And I mean, there's certain fights that work a little bit better. I think the Separate Ways, the DLC. Now that we can look back to this as a whole package, because Separate Ways is out, the DLC is out. So I think the Separate Ways DLC was in some ways a little bit better than the original. I like the presentation of that a little bit more. But I mean, overall, I keep coming back to just, maybe it's just a personal preference thing. Maybe you'll play this and you'll think like, okay, why would you ever want to play the original ever again? I mean, this is amazing. This is stellar. This is it's a beautiful looking game, and it really is. But I like that goofy 80s movie action movie style of the original. I still laugh at some of the one-liners and jokes in it. It's just fun to me. Even 8, 9, 10 playthroughs later. Even as soon as last year, I was playing through it again, and it still just had that charm to it. That same I played it back when it first came out on the GameCube, and it still had that same charm that I first experienced there. So highly recommend this. Check it out. unfortunately, the DLC that's kind of been packed into this. I mean, there's a lot of DLC to this thing. So yeah, I mean, aside from the separate ways, I mean, you have to buy the original soundtrack, the cases and stuff like that. A lot of it. The Mercenaries mode is separate too, but that's a free download as well too. Yeah, you can see some of the goofy costumes over there. So yeah, it's my friends here are posting their modded costumes, and of course that's another advantage of being on PC is you can of course have pretty much any kind of costume that modders are willing to put out there for you to download. So it's if I mean, hey, why not, right? Why not have goofy costumes and stuff like that, or alluring costumes, or whatever you want to have. It's there for us to have fun with, right? So yeah, so really enjoy this. Like I said, I'm actually kind of looking forward to Resident Evil 5. Because we're inevitably going to get a Resident Evil 5 remake. I actually kind of enjoyed Resident Evil 5, the original Resident Evil 5, and especially as a co-op experience, I thought that was actually pretty fun. The story is goofy, but just as goofy, I would say, in a lot of ways, and over the top as Resident Evil 4, but it lacks a lot of the humor and just wittiness of it, I think, in a lot of ways. So I'm interested to see what they do with Resident Evil 5. I am not optimistic about the voice actor for Wesker. Maybe I need to see more of him. I don't know, but I don't really like the performance that we got there. I'm not a Resident Evil fan. I'm not like some scholar of the series or anything like that, but I remember the very distinct Wesker voice that we had. Even with the past remake and everything like that, the Resident Evil 1 remake, it just I thought that was just a better performance. It was a more memorable performance. Like, you instantly recognize that voice, or even Wesker's, I don't know who it was, Wesker's original voice actor back in the original version of Resident Evil 5. I mean, it was just a really iconic, memorable voice as well too. So I think that's about it for this one. But I will talk about some of the change and some more changes I didn't like really quick. The kind of soft censorship that we saw for this game, it was kind of disappointing as well too. I understand part of it. It's hard to say if it was censorship so much as it was it's difficult to determine. Was it censorship, or was it more so okay, we want to have a more serious tone, we need to remove these kind of childish elements, or kind of inappropriate quote unquote elements to the game. But there definitely was some changes to, I mean, of course, the script of the game is different from the original, but there definitely were some conscious efforts to downplay things for example, with Ashley, there's lines of dialogue. Ashley in the original game, Ashley Graham, the girl that the president's daughter that you're rescuing in the game, she was sort of the butt, no pun intended, of a lot of the jokes in the game, a lot of the dialogue lines. She was, not meant to be taken seriously. And, why would she be taken seriously? She's she's really, the only notable thing about her is she's the president's daughter. She's not really supposed to be an amazing, stellar, strong character or anything like that. She's basically just there to give you a reason to, to move the plot forward. She's that she's just there as a plot element. We're supposed to get there and get her back out. That's really her only function in the story. But I think the presentation of her in the first game, yeah, she was annoying in the first game, but I liked that the game kind of poked fun at her quite a bit. In this game, it's definitely a tonal shift away from that. There wasn't really much in the way of dialogue and really presentation of the character that would it felt like they were trying to not make her the star of the show or anything like that, but it definitely felt like they were not as interested in, I guess, having disparaging jokes about her and dialogue about her. And even just design choices too. She wears this goofy, in the original game she wore, I mean, it was kind of a silly thing, but hey, it was part of the humor of the original game. She wears a skirt, and there's moments in the game where she falls down and you can see up her skirt and stuff like that. It's part of the goofiness of it. This game, she wears a little skirt thing like that or whatever, and it's just, it feels like there was a lot of the dialogue was kind of cleaned up to make it less I guess you could say less cheeky, less lewd or whatever you want to call it. And I mean, yeah, I know they were going for a more serious tone here. I just, like I said, I miss that goofiness, that not taking itself so seriously. I miss that side of it, because I feel like something was kind of lost here in that transition to a serious game. So, but yeah, no. Once again, like I said, I don't want to make it sound like I'm like talking down on the game at all. This was a great experience. Like I said, I put pretty good amount of time into it. Highly recommend it. And I don't think we're going to get any more DLC or anything for that. I think they're going to move on to Resident Evil 5 now. But like I said, I'm looking forward to Resident Evil 5. I will be checking that out as well, too. So, moving on. So, let's see. Should I do my kind of personal game of the year first, or should I talk about a disappointment first? Let God, let's talk about. Okay, well, yeah, we'll get to the we'll do my game of the year, because I don't have a ton to say about it really. I mean, it's easier really to just kind of like bash on it. I know that's kind of the YouTube thing, to be negative, but it really is easier just to bash on the game than it is to talk about, oh, this game was amazing and it was amazing for this and this and that. It's just not as interesting to say, I guess. But going over Armored Core 6, this was my, like I said, once again, I'm not a disclaimer here. I'm a PC only player. I do not have a PlayStation 5, so no Spider-Man or anything like that. I didn't touch that, didn't play that this year. I don't have any Nintendo systems either, any modern Nintendo systems, so I did not play Zelda or Mario Wonder or anything like that. So this is exclusively from a PC-centric perspective. But Armored Core 6, I did recently just did a video on the ranked gameplay of that. I gave some of my thoughts on the game there. So if you're looking for more in-depth thoughts and me actually playing the game, that's probably a better video to watch. But I'll just say in summation for this really quickly, this was just a fantastic game. This was whether you're an Armored Core fan like I am, or you're someone that's completely new to the series, this is just a great, fun action game. It's definitely not it's different in a lot of ways from like. Maybe this kind of turns some people off to it. If they're coming in, if you're like a Souls fan and you're like, oh, here's another From Software game, it's probably going to be a Souls-like. Not quite. It has a different kind of different design philosophy behind it. It plays a lot differently, I think, than a Souls game. And but it's just a fun, great action game. A return to the series, after basically being dormant and presumed to be just a dead series for 10 years. This was a great return to the series, and I'm really struggling to think of like reasons to nitpick it or like I'm trying to think of anything like negative I can really say about it. It just was a blast of an experience. Great single player campaign. You get a lot of time out of it too. It is it's basically, it does the Nier Automata thing where and other games do this too, where you have to go through and basically play for the story 3 times to actually get the entire story and all the missions. So it's really 3 playthroughs, but each playthrough feels fresh because you get new missions, some new story elements in it, and also you have new parts to play with too for your mech that you're piloting, so you can actually kind of switch your build up a little bit, making some things easier as well too. So I mean, it does feel distinct each playthrough, and you got new missions to try as well too. Usually missions that are a little bit more challenging than your first time around, or some variations on missions you tried your first time around. So great experience there. Graphically, I think it looks fantastic, amazingly, and it's sad that I have to say this nowadays. But I mean, this was true for Resident Evil 4 and for Dead Space mostly as well too. Plays on PC out of the box without tweaking, just fine. I don't think I've had a single crash in the game. I haven't really had any frame rate issues, and I haven't really like tweaked the game at all. Like I didn't really like do anything to it. Like I didn't. I didn't really like adjust the settings or anything like that crazy. I'm running a. I'll do a separate video on my system info, but my GPU is a 3070, so I'm not playing with like a crazy top of the line. I mean, it's a good card, but it's not like, I don't have like a super powerhouse of a machine necessarily, like top of the line everything. But plays great. Like I said, great story, great graphics, soundtrack. I was concerned with it at first because an Armored Core really is known for its pretty stellar soundtrack for the whole series. It's usually have some pretty great soundtracks behind it, some great individual tracks and great just scores in general. At first, I was kind of concerned because it seemed like it was a really subdued soundtrack. I didn't really notice it at first, but during some of the boss battles, there's some really great highlights, some really great songs to kind of get you pumped up as well. And if you listen to the soundtrack in isolation too, especially, this is one I listen to in just in your car or whatever. It's just a great it's a great score, I think. So great job there. The PvP with the addition of the ranked gameplay, actually a lot of fun. I have to go back and do that again, as let's do some more of that as well too. But I did a video on that, kind of just highlighting my first experiences with it just recently. It just came out not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, so it's very fresh, very new, and just a great experience. It's a little bit less in terms of playtime for this one, but I mean, this is what I'm going to keep playing for a while here. I technically am not finished with it yet. I do have just like 3 missions left to do the S ranking on, which is another way you have replayability to it as well too. Is you can go back and replay missions and get an S rank on them. You sadly don't really get much for doing that. You get an achievement for it. That's about it really, and bragging rights, I guess. And but I mean, it is more replayability that kind of tests your skills a little bit to S rank some of the missions. My only major criticism I can really think of off the top of my head is the patching on the game so far, which has been consistent and good overall. So one of the early patches really changed and radically altered the balance of some of the boss encounters in the game to the point really where I think they've kind of made them sort of trivial. I think there was a lot of complaining. There was a lot of there was a lot of belly aching early on about some of these bosses are just there's such a difficulty spike. The regular missions are just a normal difficulty or easier, but then you get to these bosses and it's just like, oh my god, I hit a wall. I definitely had some trouble. I played the game when it first came out and unpatched or anything. Definitely some of the bosses you encounter early on with a limited amount of parts, because you don't get all the parts until you played for the whole game. And actually, you don't technically get all the parts until you played for the game completely 3 times, I believe, and you do all the arena stuff. That's when you get really all the parts. But with the early parts that you get, some of the bosses were pretty difficult, pretty challenging, but definitely beatable. It just was a matter of persistence for them. I think and kind of changing things up a little bit. I think that's kind of the philosophy of Armored Core is really with all the games is the fun is going back to the garage and trying to see how you can tweak your mech to make it just kind of see what you can get away with, really. Try different sets of weapons, try okay, how tanky can I make this mech without being too slow and sluggish, or should I play a really springy fast mech at the cost of of armor. It's those choices I think that are a lot of the fun of the game and the series in general. That was the fun I had playing the old PS2 versions of the game. That was really enjoyable, and I think that's good. I think a boss should challenge you to some degree to change things up a little bit. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I think that the nerf that they made to the boss fights, it was kind of unnecessary. I think what they should have done was was exactly what they kind of did actually, was take certain weapons that were considered non-meta or not competitive and just buff them up and make them more in line with what they should be, and make them viable options. And that's kind of how you fix the balance in the game. I don't think you need to nerf the bosses into the ground, kind of like they did, to make it more fair. So I would almost recommend playing the game unpatched if you can, because I think that's just a better way to experience the game, at least the first time around. After that, the S ranking is also kind of unbalanced, I guess you could say, for another kind of nitpicking as well too. Some of the S ranking it ranges from quite challenging to just completely brain dead easy. So I think that S ranking element of it, for most missions, it's kind of okay, kind of balanced. You can't really make a lot of mistakes, and you can't really die or anything like that during S ranking if that's what you're going for. But I think some of that could have been balanced a little bit better. But overall, like I said, this is my personal game of the year. It may not be everyone's personal game of the year, of course, obviously, but I really, really enjoy this as an Armored Core fan. This was a great return to the series, and the stagger system, like I said, I could go either way on it. I like to see them maybe break away from it for the next game, because I think it sort of limits the how you build your AC. But overall, that's like I said, it's nitpicking. I had a great experience with this game. Fun, great action, works out of the box. No politics to beat you over the head with, so that's always a positive, and it's very, very rare in this day and age. So I can't really point to anything in the game that was trying to push an agenda on me, or trying to brainwash me or anything like that. It has an interesting story to it, and it doesn't really feel the need to preach to you. So it was a great experience. Hopefully, we will get either a nice expansive DLC to the game, or we will get a follow up to the game, which I'm totally fine with as well too. The tradition of these games is you have the main numbered entry in the series, and then you have sort of the expansion pack follow up to the game. So maybe that's what we'll see next. Will be another whole new game, but yeah, no, just an incredible experience here. My personal game of the year, and and welcome to see it on PC as well too. This is the first time we've had an official PC port of the game, so welcome to see it on Steam. That was really, really nice to see as well too. No need for emulating or anything like that. So very much appreciate that. So now going in the complete opposite direction for a serious disappointment. Definitely the most disappointing game of the year for me, probably for a lot of people as well too. This was a let's go over to it here. I don't even really want to click on it. So Starfield. Okay, so I'll say right off the bat, I was not. I wasn't like dying to play this game. I was not somebody in the category of super hyped. I was not of the mind that this was going to be a masterpiece or anything like that. But I mean, it's Bethesda, I know, it's been almost a decade now since we've had over a decade now since we've had good consistent quality from Bethesda. Fallout 4 I think was the turning point. Fallout 4 is still a good game overall, but a lot of really questionable decisions in it. Dialogue system, for instance, for example. Just a lot of changes to things that just really did not work out. And then after that, what do we get? We got it was just like one bad game from Bethesda after another. It's just been this unbroken chain now. I think we got the Wolfenstein sequel, which was horrible. We got God, what else came out? What was it? Deathloop, Dishonored 2. I think these all came after Fallout 4. I could be wrong. We got, of course, Fallout 76, which I actually defend that game. Sadly, I'm one of the few people that defends it still. Probably had one of the worst launches of a game out there. And I do defend that game from a gameplay standpoint. I think the gameplay to it is actually somewhat enjoyable. The story and the immersion elements of it are just completely absent, and they've been trying to slowly add that in to some degree over time. But in terms, just an awful experience. It made Fallout 4 look debonair by comparison. It was hard to believe that it would turn out as bad as it did. But yeah, then we get to Starfield, and I definitely am not someone that wanted to hate this game. It sounded intriguing. It sounded like kind of it was marketed to us as sort of what No Man's Sky was supposed to be when it launched. It was supposed, it's going to be this, you can explore 1,000 planets. There's all these things to do. It sounded almost like sort of like more of a wider open world, like Mass Effect. Like I'm going to be piloting my ship with my crew, and I can go explore different planets, and there's going to be a bunch of different things to do, a lot of cool handcrafted stuff to play through, cool quest chains that are memorable and fun and enjoyable. And it's just so bland. It was just, oh my god. As you can see, once again, for full transparency here, obviously I did not completely finish the game. I have about 22 hours into the game, and I took kind of a break here, as you can see, for a while, for going on like 4 months now of a break, 3 or 4 months of a break. And I will come back to this eventually. I will finish it off, and yeah, it's just tough. I'm literally going for like everything else first before I get back to this, just because I did not have an enjoyable experience with it. And I played through, some of the side quests, or some of the what's it called, the corporate side quests you did. That was sort of interesting, kind of, but there you can see my review there too. I give it a not recommended. But it was just such a bland, dull experience. I think the best way I can describe it, in terms of its lack of just being memorable, is I can go back to something like Fallout 3. Fallout 3 is a kind of an ancient game now. It was like, what, 2008 when that came out. That feels like it was like, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. It's an old game now, and I can still remember. It's probably been like at least 10 years since I've done a playthrough of it. I can still remember, getting out of the vault and going to Megaton, and there's a quest chain where you can blow up Megaton. There's a quest chain where there's like giant ants you have to kill. There's one where you go inside of a virtual reality thing. I remember going to there's like a big, like, what was it, like it's like a ship or whatever, like that it's like a little city right next to the DC area, downtown area. There's just so much to do in that game, or even like New Vegas, like going to the Vegas Strip for the first time. There was like, oh, what were they called? The Kings, the Elvis impersonator club. That was kind of funny. Working for House and all that stuff, and Caesar's Legion. I remember doing all these things, and some of the DLC too was really memorable for like New Vegas and stuff like that. But the point in this rambling here is I remember those games. They had fun, enjoyable quest chains to do that I look back on fondly. It was like a real experience. It was an immersive, fun experience that I still remember to this day. However many years after playing the game. I played New Vegas a little bit more recently, to be fair, but it's still fresh. A lot of it's still fresh in my mind. I just can't remember doing anything in Starfield. Only 22 hours in, but it's just like everything just kind of blends together. It's just lifeless is the best way I can describe it. I guess appropriately for a game about space, because space is mostly empty and there's not much really going on. It's just a bunch of rocks and stuff hurling through space, more or less, but for an empty void, really, mostly. But I mean, that's what the game is. The gameplay itself it feels like a total conversion mod for Fallout 4, and not a good one. The space flight aspect of it is completely just it's something you can write off completely, because it's more, I mean, you hop from, you don't really need to fly anywhere in the game. It's just kind of an optional little thing. You can't really even fly anywhere. I mean, technically you can, but it's mostly just like, okay, let me open up my menu. Okay, I got to do this quest. Let me open up my menu. Okay, let me get to my ship, and then I gotta jump to this sector. So that's another loading screen. Loading two loading screens already. Then I have to find out where I need to land. It's another loading screen, and then maybe I have to fast travel to something. It's like, I mean, you're like, it's like a loading screen simulator. I mean, other people describe it that way too, but I mean, that's really what it is. It was, and I just noticed it right away. It's like, okay, I'm constantly in the menu, just clicking out where to go next, and it's just, that's not. It doesn't feel like I'm in this interconnected world that way. And you had fast travel in every other Bethesda game too. You had that in Skyrim, you had that in Oblivion, everything else too. All the Fallout games as well. But there still was a need to go and explore and to find these locations first, and then you can actually travel to them quickly. But I mean, there was a sense of this was an interconnected world, a sandbox for me to be in. This doesn't feel like a sandbox. This feels more like cordon off areas and little instances of areas, little slices of sections of a game, and I'm just kind of popping into them from one spot to another, and it's just not interesting or engaging. And it's just, I don't know how they could have made the story more interesting. Maybe it did need aliens. Maybe there's no aliens in the game or anything like that. There's like animal aliens without it. There's no intelligent aliens in the game. Maybe it kind of needed that. Maybe it needed some sort of like political intrigue, or I mean, I know it's kind of like cliche, like, okay, we're at war with an alien race, or we're or it's a Star Trek angle where we're all trying to get along and everything. And it's it's hippity dippity, and you know, you know, and maybe it needed that. Maybe you need to have a story like that because. There wasn't. There's just nothing there. I mean, even the stuff that like sounded like interesting on the surface of it. Like, I made my character one of the actually the things it does well is you can actually kind of like define your character, like give them a couple of different traits and sort of make them kind of unique to some degree. And I made my character like this, like sort of this like secret religious fanatic where you worship like this this like kooky religion where they think like there's like a great serpent that like can, is going to destroy the galaxy or something like that. Like it's just this crazy. I'm like that's kind of cool and goofy, and like I'm going to be like this kind of space freelancer, and but I'm secretly like this religious cultist as well too. Like that'd be kind of cool. But the game just does nothing with that. There's it's mentioned, there's references to like this goofy religious group, and they had some history in the lore of the game, but nothing interesting. I don't think there's really even any quests that involved them, at least that I found right away. So I mean, it's like why should I have my character have these traits if they don't really mean anything? It's just fluff, really, like for me to kind of think of in the back of my head. And I mean, not even modders are really interested in this game either. So it's going to be like, I mean, we're probably not even going to get like interesting like player-led quests or anything like that. So yeah, it's just a very bland experience. And even taking the politics aside from it, I mean, to get into that element of it, I mean, I don't really even want to spend that much more time on this game, discussing this game at this point, because it was just so bland. But I mean, you had the pronoun issue, of course. You have the just kind of the kind of the nonsensical generic NPCs and how they're kind of generated in this thing. There's just no logic or flow to any of it. I could do a whole separate video just talking about all that stuff, but the point I kind of want to move on a little bit from this like I said, this very disappointing experience. This was like and the weird thing about Starfield 2, like this was like the game they wanted to make. This was like their magnus opus. Like we really want to make this game. This is going to be incredible. This is this is going to be so great, but yeah, it was just so bland. All the reviewers that are saying it's a loading screen simulator, it really is. And the worst part is, not only is it a loading screen simulator, when you get to the places that you're actually supposed to go, there's just nothing interesting to do there. It's just fetch quests. There's no interesting lore or dialogue or characters that are memorable. I can't really even think of any of the characters. I can't really even can I even name any of the characters that I interacted with in the game? I guess there's Sarah. That's about it, and I only know her because she was like my companion character for a while. Because just to have somebody with you for the there was like, what's it called, achievement, like a romance achievement. So I just used her for that achievement. So she's the only character I ever remember, and I can't really even remember anything. Like I did like a whole like side like romance quest with her, I think, and to get that achievement. I can't remember anything about her. Like I said, it just was so like so lifeless, and meanwhile, I know it's this game too, because I can go back to a game like Mass Effect, which is also an old game now. It's from like, God, would that come out like 2007 or something like that? Mass Effect was like it's an older game now, but I remember the characters in that game. I remember their personalities, and their stories to some degree. I can't tell you anything about this game. I'm already 22 hours into the game. I'm well past any kind of tutorial. I'm like probably like 2/3 of the way for the main quest. I've done full side quest chains already. A lot of other little stuff. I played around with my like base building element of it as well, to kind of set up a house to some degree, or a settlement type thing. And I don't really have much to say about it. I mean, I can't even recommend this game on sale, really. I mean, I probably would have refunded this game if I didn't get it from like a, what's it called, like a third-party site or whatever, which I think I probably could have refunded it, but it's whatever. I'm way past my time limit on it at this point. But yeah, I would steer clear of this. Like, get literally anything else that you see on the list over here first. I mean, maybe if you see this for like, if you're really bored, you have nothing else to play, if you see this for like under $20 and you're a big fan of Bethesda games and you're just looking for something to do, and maybe after a year or two there's some good modding support for this, then go ahead. Then I guess why not at that point? What do you got to lose for $15-20? But in its current state right now, it's I think it's actually at mostly negative now, isn't it? Let's see. Let's see here. Yeah, it's at mostly negative. So, I mean, that just kind of tells you. I don't even want to scroll down to the reviews, 'cause I'm sure they're going to be pretty bad. So, it just it's not even hyperbole for a lot of this too. It really is. It really is just that bad of an experience. So I don't recommend it at all. Steer clear of Starfield. But the other three games I mentioned on here, Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, and especially Armored Core 6, check them out. Pretty awesome experiences then. So that kind of wraps up the video more or less. But I do want to just quickly go into my Steam replay for 2023, just kind of give you an idea of some of the games I enjoy, what I'm into. And then we'll talk very briefly about 2024, what to expect, and we'll call it a video here, or an overview of 2023. It's obviously not a comprehensive overview, just some highlights, kind of what I personally enjoyed from the year. Might not be what you enjoyed, but this is what stood out to me. So go to the profile. Let's see. Let's kick up the Steam year in review 2023. Okay. So, I kind of like that this is sort of caught on as like a common thing. I think all the consoles have them at some point too. They have something like this as well. So it's just kind of a cool thing to go through and just kind of, just sort of summarize your experience for the year and kind of maybe tell you a little bit about the preferences, type of games that you play as well too. So right here you can see some overviews right away. 37 games played total, and a lot of that was new. Surprisingly, I mean, it was a lot of I guess I just kind of was just playing all the major new stuff for this year. So a lot of that was actually newer games. Pretty decent amount of achievements as well too. I do tend to go for achievements, so that's pretty much to be expected. I think that's actually more than I think I got last year too. And this one, keyboard and mouse and controller. So actually, I mean, this, and it's important to note for controller too. Steam Deck, which I have a Steam Deck as well too, that counts as a controller for the purpose of how this is broken down too. So I mean, I actually kind of use sort of a blend of both, really, which sort of surprised me. But I guess it makes sense because for the games that all the games I mentioned, really, Resident Evil, well, with the exception of Starfield, with Resident Evil 4, Armored Core 6, and Dead Space, I actually played those with a controller. And I just thought that just kind of made sense. I played Dead Space originally with a controller, played it on console originally, played Resident Evil 4 originally on GameCube with a controller, and Armored Core, of course, was a console exclusive series, really, up until this point. So obviously I played that with a controller as well, too. So I just thought, why not play those with a controller? So that kind of makes sense to me. And then for my time breakdown, so I'm a big fan of World of Warships, so this does not surprise me at all that ended up with basically half of my playtime going to that game, so not too surprising there. And then, of course, invested a good amount of time into Dead Space and Resident Evil 4 because I finished those off. And Resident Evil 4 especially because I had to come back to the game later to, of course, finish off the DLC that came out as well, too. So kind of, as you can see, more of a power gamer here if these medians are anything to go off of here. Medium of 16 achievements. I had 3,132 this year. Median of 4 games, I had 37. And my longest streak was 44 days, which was actually pretty surprising. I don't know when that period of time was, but I guess it kind of makes sense. And a lot of that, too, is probably actually to blame on World of Warships too, logging in and getting daily rewards and stuff like that. So that kind of makes sense to some degree. 37% of the playtime you had in games were new releases. 9% of Steam playtime in games that were new releases. Okay, well, let me slow down here. 9% the percentage of Steam playtime in games that were new releases, games released in 2023. Sorry, okay. Oh, you can actually kind of switch these two here. 50%, the percentage of playtime you had in playing games that were released in the last 1 to 7 years as well. Okay, so it's kind of a cool breakdown. Recent favorites, classic games. I'm trying to remember what the classic games I played on this were. Oh, well, that's fine. Okay, we got the spider graph here. So naval combat, of course, obviously it's World of Warships. Card game, I actually did play a good amount of Yu-Gi-Oh this year on here. Just kind of dipping my toe in that. I'm not like a competitive player in that by any stretch of the imagination, but just kind of played that for a little while, especially on my Steam Deck. I was playing that quite a bit, and Metroidvania on here as well too. So wouldn't it be cool if we could combine all of these together, like a naval combat card game, Metroidvania? That's what we got to make here. And this just goes over. Yeah, I don't really post a ton of stuff, or I'm not really like much of a badge collector. Put some reviews up. I like to just do some reviews on games just to kind of get my thoughts down. I'm trying to get in a better habit of just doing like a quick review for every game, just that way it's fresh in my mind. So kind of you kind of give a better idea instead of trying to go back and remember what I thought about some game I finished like 5 years ago or something. So World of Warships, 39% of my play time, 12-day streak here. So I really kind of, as you can see, I kind of took a break from it for the last little bit here since September. I've been playing other stuff and catching up on stuff, but yeah, I mean this takes up a lot of my time. Obviously, fantastic game. I really love World of Warships. I love just kind of the idea of naval combat in a video game, and I think it does it really really well. It's kind of made me interested in just kind of I guess sort of naval warships and things of that in general too, kind of the history of them as well. So it's sort of kind of fostered that interest as well too. But what a fantastic game, and I still have a lot to do in that game too. I want to actually finish off the achievements on it, but I have a lot to do to actually get that done still. Probably still another maybe 400 hours left to do that, depending on how lucky I get with things there. Dead Space, of course, played that a lot. It came out at the end of January, so I played it a lot in February. It was most of my time, and then I took a break from it, came back and did my what's it called, hardcore run, or my like hard mode run, the one where you can't die or whatever. I came back and did that in later in the year then as well too. And yeah, I got all the achievements unlocked for that. Resident Evil 4, played that of course a little bit, and then I didn't really get into it fully into May. And then, of course, recently we had the DLC come out, so played it a good amount to get for the DLC. The DLC was fairly quick. I think it was like 2 or 3 playthroughs to get it all done, so that was what I got taken care of there. And then Master Duel, like I said, I played that quite a bit over the summer and earlier on in the year. I didn't really make like any kind of competitive deck. It was kind of just playing kind of meme decks, like an Exodia deck. So, like I said, I'm not like I wouldn't say I'm a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh player by any stretch of the imagination. Don't really play any card games in general anymore. I used to play like Hearthstone to some degree, and I might go back to that someday. I don't know. And Magic a little bit as well too, but it just kind of got away from those. And Callisto Protocol actually was a decent amount of time here too. I actually defend that game. You can go back and watch my playthrough of that. I actually defend that game. I give my thoughts on it there. This was mostly for all the DLC. There's actually a lot of DLC that came out, including the story DLC, and that usually necessitated another playthrough because I wanted to keep my 100% achievements unlocked. So I actually went through and replayed through it a couple of times. Like I said, I think the game kind of it's kind of unjustly criticized. There's definitely some things to criticize about, and I talk about that in my playthrough of it. But it is it's not like this. I mean, people act like it was like one of the worst games of the year. It just was not. If nothing else, just based on the visuals alone. I mean, it was like one of the best looking games of 2022 by far. Just a gorgeous looking game. It's just that a lot of the other elements of the game were just not up to what people were expecting. But I still enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. Playtime by month. Of course, playtime with controller. Going over that, spend time playing with these with controller. And my longest streak was 44 days. Okay, well, it actually tells you. So June 25th through August 8th, there as well to play 13 different games. Oh, yeah, and I got an adult game on there too, but actually Corinne's Prison is actually a very fun game as well too. So it's an adult game, but it's also an actual game as well too. But we won't go into that too much. I know this is YouTube, but it actually is a game. It's not just a there's a lot of adult games on Steam and in general, and 99% of them are pretty awful. But that was actually it's actually a game. It's actually kind of a dungeon crawler RPG type of experience, which was actually kind of fun. So not don't always judge a book by its cover. There's actually some decent stuff out there. That was one that was recommended to me online, and that I decided to play it. And like I said, just as a game itself, it actually was fun. So, and this is just like a full list of games that I played this year, I guess. So, or at least booted up. I mean, it doesn't really. I don't think this really like counts, like if you just, I think it's probably counts if you just even just logged into the game once. So I mean, there's some other highlights in here. I did the old Lords of the Fallen game, which was not so good. I'm not really a Souls fan either, though. Played through Castlevania Advance Collection. That was fantastic. I love Castlevania. Played for the original Resident Evil 4, like I said, yet again. And this should really be an honorable mention here. Warhammer Bolt Gun. This was fantastic. It's one of those. It's in that boomer shooter genre where it's kind of trying to sort of do a kind of an homage to like Doom and Doom 2, and it does a really good job of it, and it's actually a lot of fun. And having a Warhammer coat of paint on it is always welcome. I love Warhammer, so yeah. And then what else do we have on here? I got, let's see, yeah, Tony Hawk 1 and 2, been playing that a lot recently. Hogwarts I really enjoyed. We talked about that before on the channel too, but I just maybe I'll get back into it eventually. But not a bad game, just not one. It's just one that kind of felt a little repetitive after a while. I just really kind of lost my interest in it. Vampire Survivor, started playing that a little bit too, and kind of played some older stuff too. But that's, for the most part, that's my Steam year in review there. So yeah, so that's I'm actually kind of, the more I think about Corinne's Prison, like I should probably do, like, I don't see a lot of content talking about like more, I guess you could say, controversial games. Like, I mean, there was a lot of content like back when like Hatred first came out, for example, like these kind of adult oriented games, and I just think it's kind of this. There's something fascinating about them, about how I think there's a lot to actually talk about with them. So. There's a lot to sift through because there's a lot of garbage in those genres. These kind of those adult only type of genres or more adult themed games. But yeah, I think there is I think there definitely is some interesting things to say about that as well too. So that is the year in review there. Go back to the profile, or let's go back to this. So yeah, and that's kind of everything for 2023. So. Looking forward to 2024. So let's pull that up here right away. Now, 2024. So I know everybody thought like 2023 was like, amazing, and it really was. There's a lot of stuff that came out, way more than just the ones I highlighted. Of course, there's a lot of really cool stuff that came out in 2023. But 2024, I mean, if you look ahead to what's actually coming out, it's not much. I mean, there's definitely some big titles coming out, but I mean, compared to this past year, I mean, it's just where you had just like big hit after big hit, and huge influential game after huge influential game. I'm not seeing much for 2024. I don't think I'm the only one to point this out either, but I mean, this is really going to be kind of a desert of a year. I mean, there's not really going to be much coming out. There is some stuff coming out, though, of course, that I am looking forward to. So pulled up some of them here. I will have a video on Tekken 8. Of course, that's going to be the first game that comes out in 24. End of January here. So we're only like a couple weeks away, 2 or 3 weeks away, or like 3 or 4 weeks, I guess you could say, at this point from Tekken 8. Big Tekken fan. I love Tekken. I'm not a competitive player by any stretch of the imagination, but looking forward to this. I got the collector's edition as well, too, so we will be doing a unboxing of that when that comes out. Looking forward to that. I think it's kind of cool they went for like a Jin figure here, because this will be kind of a nice companion piece with the Tekken 7 collector's edition, which, to refresh your memory, let's see. Well, yeah, we'll get an image of that up here. Okay, yeah, I love the statue. This looks awesome. I have this statue from Tekken 7. Just really cool kind of pose to it. This one, of course, is for Tekken 8, it's a little bit less creative, obviously, but I think it lights up. It does have like a lighting feature to it, and I think it's going to look pretty cool. Hopefully, it's going to be kind of to scale here, next to my Tekken 7 statue as well too. So, looking forward to this quite a bit. Going to be playing it a decent amount here when it comes out, but yeah. But beyond that one, there's not much. I mean, really, looking ahead for the year here, obviously, most anticipated game. I think this was the most anticipated game at the Game Awards as well too. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the second installment in the remake series here for Final Fantasy VII, with a gorgeous collector's edition as well too. It looks really, I'll look at that statue here. That's an incredible statue. I think it's like 19 inches tall too. It's a huge statue. I am actually going to be getting this, but you're going to say, wait, didn't you say you don't have a PlayStation 5 and this is only coming out on PlayStation 5? Yes, that is true. But I'm getting this, the collector's edition, actually not for myself, but my wife really enjoys the series. She's a big Final Fantasy fan. So even though we won't be playing the game at launch, I mean, we'll have to wait for a PC release of the game. We will have the very nice statue to go to look at here, and to go with the Final Fantasy collection that we have that she has. So we'll be getting this game. We'll be doing an unboxing of it as well, and but just won't be playing it, and not for another year probably at least, or however long the exclusivity deal is for it. But for speaking of a game that I will be playing, just not for a while, we have, once again, back to my Warhammer fandom here. We have Warhammer Space Marine 2 coming out. A game that I really thought was probably never going to be made in the first place, but very welcome to see it. And it actually has I almost missed this one. I didn't really even realize it had a collector's edition until I just was randomly browsing online and found it. So actually a really gorgeous collector's edition. This is going to be coming out end of what is the actual date on it now? Let's see. It's not September 9th, I don't think. Space Marine 2 Warhammer release date. Let's see. So it is September 9th. Okay, so yeah, September 9th this year. So that is a long ways away. So we got quite a bit of time before that's going to be coming out. So it's but I mean, yeah, this is just a gorgeous collector. The only way I could like this more would be if it was like a Chaos Space Marine. Chaos Space Marines are my faction. So yeah, definitely it's a filthy Chaos Trader player. That's me. But yeah, it's still gorgeous statues. It's Gravityrian here. He's about to finish them off. That's awesome. And all the other bells and whistles you expect for a collector's edition. In the original game, Space Marine 1 had a collector's edition as well too. I have that. It had a really nice art book and everything with it. It just was lacking kind of a cool statue, and this one just looks, I think, pretty awesome. Resin statue, good size for it. I like that it's very bloody and gory. Yeah, that's just very Warhammer. It's supposed to be grimdark. So that looks incredible. Even the boxer over here looks really pretty well done too. And obviously, I'm gushing over this. I'm a Warhammer fan, big Warhammer fan here, but this looks, I think, legitimately really good. And even if you're not a Warhammer type of person, it looks like just a good straight up action experience as well too. I enjoyed the first game quite a bit. I wish I would have gotten more into the multiplayer experience, but just kind of played it through the regular single player and just kind of moved on at the time. I think there's other stuff I was playing at the time, but yeah. So anyways, I mean, that's about it for 2024. I mean, obviously there's other there's other games coming out this year, maybe some that you're looking forward to, but I mean, not much. I mean, that's really all there is. And that's why, I mean, I'm kind of like seeing this really as like the year of the backlog. This is going to be to go back to my Steam here for a second. This is my backlog here, and I mean, I'm glad I have this pretty well stocked right now. There's 54 games in this one right now, including some bangers like I got Baldur's Gate 3 here, which was another one. Probably this would be, I imagine, in my top 3 for the year. But as you can see, I've not played it. I just picked this up recently. I was too focused on Armored Core at the time and other games wanted to finish up. So it's I have not had the chance to play it, but obviously I've heard all the hype, and this was game of the year. So I mean, I want to check this out and give it its its proper amount of time and to really experience it. So in a way, it's kind of a good thing that 2024 is going to be just so bereft of any kind of new games, because it gives me a chance to kind of catch up on stuff like this. And I have a lot of other stuff in here that I want to go through, or things that I want to replay, or things that I've been meaning to get to, like Near Replicant. I've had this for a bit here, and I just have not gotten back to it, or even like some ancient games I just have never gotten to, like Half-Life. I'm actually never gone for like Half-Life 2. Played Half-Life 1 a little bit, but never actually played for these. So I mean, it's going to be a good year for going back through the backlog and finishing off games, because there's just not going to be a whole lot coming out. I mean, unless there's going to be some surprise announcements. I mean, maybe we'll have some surprise things that came out that are just going to be, we're not going to expect. But I mean, so far, just looking at it, it's going to be a really quiet year. It's going to be quite a contrast, I think, to 2023, where you just had everything come out. Especially if you're someone that plays, like I said, on PlayStation and Nintendo and PC and everything. I mean, then you had just a whole bunch of different things to play. But yeah, no, I mean that's what we have to look forward to, which is not too much. But yeah, it's just I'd say if there's any sales going on right now, stock up while you can. Get some good games to play through, or go for your backlog. Organize it, get it ready to go, because this is what you're going to be playing. Probably this year is going to be older stuff, or stuff that's going to be that's kind of ancient and collecting dust at this point, or replaying for some games that are some classics as well too. And here's my backups as well. I have 100. If I ever somehow get through this, I have another 136 to play through here too. So I have my backups as well too, just in case. But yeah, so that's my overview of 2023 and what to look forward to in 2024, which is not too much. But yeah, thanks so much for listening here today. It went a little bit longer than I expected. I had a little bit more to say than I thought I would. But yeah, let me know what you think. I mean, is there something I'm missing here? I mean, I looked over a list of what's coming in 2024, and I don't see much. I mean, unless I'm just totally missing something, or there's something else that I'm not thinking of. Maybe the Silent Hill 2 remake, which could come out next year, it might not. Which I'm not really looking forward to so much as I'm just curious about and want to just play and see how it compares. And I know it's not going to be good. Go watch my Silent Hill Ascension video, and I talk about the series and how it's dead at this point. But I will check it out just to do, if nothing else, just to do sort of a quick review on it and share my thoughts on it as well too. So aside from that, I mean, keep in mind, Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be 2025. We know that already. And for PC, who knows when it'll be? Maybe 2026 or something like that at that point. So you don't have that to look forward to for next year. So what is there really? If I'm missing something, please tell me. And also for 2023, if there's I'm sure that's definitely not going to be everyone's kind of list of best games for the year or top 3 for the year, but it's mine personally. Like I said, I come in at this from a PC centric perspective, so that's what I really enjoy this year. Once again, very, very, if nothing else, I'm very, very happy. Even with the extreme disappointment of Starfield, very, very happy to see that Armored Core is alive and well. I think it sold fairly well too. I know they were disappointed to some degree of the sales, but I mean, it's come on, you can't have this. I mean, going up against Elden Ring, it's it's incomparable. I mean, you can't really do. I'm sure Elden Ring sales are going to be disappointing if you compare them to what Grand Theft Auto 6 sales is going to be. Which is going to be something crazy, several hundred million or something like that. When all is said and done after a period of time here, it's going to be something crazy. I'm sure. I don't even know what Grand Theft Auto 5 is up to. It's probably something just absolutely insane. Let's see. I'm kind of curious. What is Grand Theft Auto 5 total sales? 190 million units. Okay. So yeah. So I mean, it's all relative, right? Everything compared to this is pretty low sales, right? So yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's we'll see what we get for 2024. But yeah, get your backlogs ready, because that's what you're going to be relying on here for the next year at least. And then when 2025 rolls around, who knows what we'll have? Maybe we'll have you'll have Grand Theft Auto 6, of course, at least, and maybe a few other things to look forward to. So yeah, so thanks so much for watching. Once again, if you can subscribe, that's awesome. We like to see the numbers go up. And otherwise, if you have anything interesting to say, throw it down in the comments. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great 2024. We have some content coming up here for you. Obviously, I have those unboxings coming up, and a bunch of other stuff, bunch of other things I want to focus on, like more collection videos and showing that off. That's kind of my the niche we have here, so I want to show off more of that stuff. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Have a great 24, and we will see you real soon.